The Padri War occurred from 1803 to 1837 in Sumatra Island, Indonesia. This video discusses the first Padri movement in Agam, West Sumatra, under the leadership of Tuanku Nan Renceh, from 1803 to 1820. The second Padri aggressive movement on the Batak land under the leadership of Tuanku Imam Bonjol will be discussed in another video. At the beginning of the 19th century AD, the Hijaz area was chaotic, because the Islamic group Wahhabi carried out an attack in order to conquer the area. In Hijaz, the Wahhabi burned books. In short, all non-Islamic books were considered to be morally damaging. They destroyed the domes of mosques, destroyed the graves of prominent people, and also destroyed various pilgrim sites. Wahhabi rejected the interpretation of the text and demanding absolute compliance according to the Quran and Hadith. According to an Islamic scholar, Hamid Algar, the Wahhabi was engaged in a murder and looting campaign throughout Arabia. In 1803, there were 3 Sumatran Hajis or pilgrims who came from Minangkabau who intended to return to their homeland, after years of living in the cities of Mecca and Medina. They were Haji Miskin, Haji Sumanik, and Haji Piabong. Apparently these 3 Hajis from Minang were very interested in and agreed with the Wahhabi movement, which imitated the example of the Prophet Muhammad in spreading Islam strictly and without compromise. According to Mangaraja Ongong Parlandungan, in his book Tuanku Rao, said that the 3 Hajis met with the leader of the Wahhabi movement, Abdulah ibn Saud, in 1802. Ibn Saud would later become the first leader of the Saudi kingdom in 1814 to 1818. It was said that bin Saud ordered the 3 men to return to Minangkabau and spread Islam with Wahhabi style. If this information is true, it is likely that this meeting made them feel they have a sacred mission in Minangkabau, and why they then devoted their whole lives to this purpose.
We agree with this Wahhabi understanding because this movement aims to purify the teachings of Islam from all things that deviate from that in society.
We will bring the Minang community back to pure Islam, as in the time of the Prophet Muhammad.
Inshallah, our efforts will succeed.
So they went through a long journey, from Hijaz to the land of Minangkabau, in Sumatra Island. Later they became known as the Padri, or the Men of Pedir, from the harbor of Pidi in Aceh, from where pilgrims set off for Mecca. In the early 19th century, Islam had developed in Sumatra. There were the great kingdoms of Islam at the time, including the Kingdom of Aceh, the Kingdom of Siak Indarapura, Fagharuyung, Johor, Jambi, and Palembang. The Padri War discussed in this video took place in the Agam area, West Sumatra, in the Fagharuyung Kingdom. Many Minangkabau people were Muslims, although in general, they still did local customs that were not in line with Islam. For example, the Minangkabau community applied a matriarchy cultural system in which women have an important position in the family and community to take the policy that determines the fate of the community. Prophet Muhammad certainly would not agree with that.
Women's intelligence is only half of men's intelligence, and most residents of hell are women. Therefore women should not have a position parallel to men in Muslim communities. In addition to matriarchy, other traditions that were considered by Padri people that needed to be changed were the habits of gambling at cock fights, drinking liquor, and chewing or smoking tobacco. At this event, the Minangkabau community who prefer to keep their traditions were referred to as Adat people.
In the early 18th century AD, the spread of Islam was generally only carried out by ulamas to the royal authorities. However, in the early 19th century AD, ulamas began to direct Islamic law in the daily lives of local people. Fatwas were issued with regard to household problems, intimate relationships, and other life problems. The demands of this Islamic change were not always welcomed by the local community.
Oh, Pak Haji, what's up?
Good, thank you. Let me see here. You should start applying Islam carefully in your life. As a Muslim, you can't drink alcoholic beverage. It's haram, and you know that.
But this is our tradition, sir.
After all, we made it ourselves, buying and selling ourselves, not asking for money from anyone.
But this is Allah's command, not my command. Whoever does not decide to follow according to what Allah has revealed, then they are infidels. Do you want to be infidel? I don't think so.
Calm down. Let's drink together instead.
Don't have such a short fuse, Pak Haji. Just relax.
Why are you so disobedient?
It was not easy to
You are
change the
sinning,
life
and that
habits of the
sin
local
brings a
community.
punishment from Allah. The torture of the grave. They are really insolent. No wonder the Prophet had to use the sword to uphold the Islamic Sharia.
Haji Piubong also received resistance from the community in his place.
Oh, it's hard to deal with Muslims whose Islamic faith is only in their mouths. They prefer heretical practices like smoking or chewing tobacco, and wearing silk clothes.
Haji Sumanik also experienced the same thing in his area.
We need support to apply Islam without compromise.
The support then came from a preacher, or a great scholar, holding the title of Tuanku Nan Renche in the city of Kamang, who felt interested in the intentions of the three Hajis. The title of Tuanku is the highest title given to an Islamic religious teacher. The position of Tuanku is a level under Syeikh.
Even though the Minangkabau people are Muslim, they still live as infidels. For example, they like to drink wine, use tobacco to smoke or to chew, gamble with their rice fields, or even wives. This must be eradicated so that they turn around to embrace pure Islam.
In 1803, the three Hajis worked with Tuanku Nan Renche in his residence in Kamang, to Islamize the whole of Sumatra. They made long-term plans to achieve their goals.
We must build a strong Muslim force to deal with the Muslim communities who are still living in the infidel culture, as well as non-Muslim communities who reject Islam.
Apparently they wanted to establish the state of Darul Islam, by following the example of the Prophet Muhammad, who forced the spread of Islam through the use of swords and attacks in Hejaz. This is the statement from the Prophet.
I have been ordered by Allah to fight against the people until they testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, and that Muhammad is Allah's messenger, and offer the prayers perfectly and give the obligatory charity. So if they perform that, then they save their lives and property from me.
Tuanku Renche formed a Muslim force he called the Padri army to carry out an aggressive war to spread Islam. Tuanku Nan Renche appointed Tuanku Lintao to be the commander of the Padri army, and Tuanku Lalo as his assistant. They are all dressed like Arabs in the Middle East, with turbans and white clothes. This is contrary to the habit of dressing like the Minang and Batak people, who usually prefer dark or black fabrics. All people who did not wear white Arabic-style clothes were considered as rejecting Islam.
Still want to get drunk, huh? Here, take this.
Is that the teaching of your religion? Damaging other people's things? You have to pay for it.
This for your loss.
You want to fight?
What you gonna do?
The aunt of Tuanku Nan Renche was a respected woman in the community and she was not concerned about her nephew's ambition.
You still chew tobacco and drink wine. That is not in accordance with Islam. When will you stop doing it?
No need to bother how I should live. Just take care of yourself.
Apparently you do not give me another choice.
Tuanku Renche finally ordered Tuanku Lelo to kill his mother's sister before him.
What do you want to do?
Her body was not buried but was thrown into the forest because she was considered as an infidel. What Tuanku Nan Renche did was in accordance with the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad, who indeed ordered Muslims to fight their non-Muslim family members. For example, in the Badr robbery, Umar ibn Khattab killed his non-Muslim uncle, Al-Az ibn Hisham. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah also killed his non-Muslim father, Abdulah ibn al-Jarrah. Their strong attitude caused conflict with Tuanku Nan Thuo. He was one of the most respected Minangkabau Sufi scholars, and was also the teacher of Tuanku Nan Renche, and all prominent ulamas who were members of the Padri army.
Even though I agree with the effort to bring the community back to the pure Sharia, but I do not agree with the hard way my student Tuanku Nan Renche's methods applied. The first areas that were the main target of Islamic reformers were those that had a market that provided large facilities for cockfights, such as Bukit Batabua village. This village experienced rapid economic development through agricultural products. Therefore, local residents were able to build a large cockfight center.
In this place, many spectators gambled, even sometimes spent all their money. Alcoholic beverages and opium were widely circulated among the audience. Tuanku Nan Thuo came with his students and supporters to close the arena.
The local ulamas asked me to meet you. We agree that this immoral place must be closed, because it's contrary to Islamic Sharia.
If you don't like it, don't come here. We also do not come to your place to close your madrasa.
Tuanku Nan Thuo's request was rejected, so there was a fierce dispute between the two parties. Tuanku Nan Thuo was an expert in martial art, but he was overwhelmed by the resistance of the owner of the cockfight arena. The arena visitors pelted Tuanku Nan Thuo and his students with stones, so they had to save themselves.
They are stubborn, but we have to continue to do the closing effort until finally the place does not function anymore.
Tuanku Nan Thuo and his followers tried repeatedly to close the cockfighting arena, and that caused a lot of fights. Finally, 4 months later, the building was successfully destroyed.
Those hypocrite ulamas were so arrogant.
Yes, this is our money, the results of our hard work. Who are they to control our lives?
The fans of the cockfighting did not give up so easily. They reopened the new cockfighting center in Banuhampu village. Tuanku Nan Thuo came again with his followers to close the new arena. As a result, the same fight happened again. This time, both sides suffered many casualties. Tuanku Nan Renche condemned the way Tuanku Nan Thuo upheld the Islamic Sharia.
A small attack attempt will never be successful. If a gentle approach is not successful, then we must attack each village and change the community to return to Sharia by applying jihad using the sword.
The target of the attack started from local cities, such as Bukit Kamong, Magik, Shala and Koto Baru. What did the Padri do in those places to force Islamic Sharia upon the people? The answer was found from the writings of a moderate scholar who lived at that time, Sheikh Jalaluddin. He wrote about the oppression carried out by the Padris to the Minangkabau community in the 1820s. His original writing was written in Dutch, titled The Origin of Padri Wars in Sumatra, and was published in 1857.
There are good aspects of the Tuanku Padri. They organized prayers and enforced almsgiving and fasting during Ramadan, and undertook the Hajj as they were able, and repaired mosques and bathing places, and wore permissible clothes, and commanded people to pursue knowledge and commerce. And there are wicked aspects of the Tuanku Padri. They committed murder without cause, that is, they murdered all the ulamas who disagreed with them. After that, they did various burnings. They burned all the Gadang houses. They also murdered all the courageous people who stood up to them. They murdered all the intellectuals, calling them traitors. They pillaged and looted the property of others. They took women who had husbands, and married women of unequal rank without their consent. They made concubines of their captives. They captured people and sold them into slavery. They insulted noble people and insulted elders, and called the faithful Muslims as infidels, and deprecated them. Even so, they still say their actions are an act of perfect religion. The cities they attacked were burned down. The city of Padang Tharab, which is located in the east, also suffered the same fate.
Tuanku Nan Rence's strategy was to set one entire village against another. He incited the poorer people to attack people in richer areas. For example, the community of Badi Shaniago was incited to attack the people of Koto Piliang, which traditionally in Minangkabau was considered a place for those who have high positions.
Remember, they look down on you. They are infidels. You are the real Muslims. We attack them. Their wealth and blood are halal. Allahu Akbar.
Most of the Padri people come from the Shaniago Badi tradition. The lure of wealth from looting certainly increased their enthusiasm to attack other tribes. Tuanku Nan Rence ordered residents from Bukit Kamong to attack Kurai, between Bukit Tinggi and Koto Thuo, where his teacher Tuanku Nan Thuo lived. In the attack, the Padri army killed the sons of Tuanku Nan Thuo.
They killed my sons, and still insisted that their actions were blessed by Allah.
Tuanku Nan Thuo isn't a Muslim. He is actually a Rahib Thuo, aka a Kafir Christian priest. Sheikh Jalaluddin also pretended to be Muslim, when in fact he was the king of infidels.
This is how the Sharia regulations were set by Tuanku Nan Rence in the area he conquered in 1820.
Men must grow their beard. Those who shave his beard will be fined 2 suku. Those who cut their teeth will have to pay a fine of 1 buffalo. If the knee is shown, the fine is 2 suku. Women who do not wear burqa are fined 3 suku. Hit a child will be fined 2 suku. Selling or consuming tobacco will be fined 5 suku. If one has long nails, his fingers will be cut off. Taking interest with money will be fined 5 shilling. The first time abstaining from salat will be fined 5 suku. If he repeats it, he will be sentenced to death.
Tuanku Nan Rence appointed several ulamas to control the area conquered with iron fists. Because of their harsh way in applying Islamic Sharia, they were nicknamed the Salapan or 8 Tigers. Soon, the Padri movement turned into a real civil war, with villages fighting other villages, but also poor members attacking the richer families of their own village. At some point, different Padri leaders waged war against each other. Slave trade was a very important element for the Padri ulamas. War prisoners were treated as merchandise, and some were sold in the slave market. The rest were told to transport goods and to become reserve soldiers. When there was no attack, the slaves had to plant rice and food to feed the Padri army. These slaves made it possible for the Padri to last so long, which was around 40 years, in igniting various warfare. It is ignorant to think that Islam is liberating the Indonesian people, just like what the Muslims used to say in Indonesia. The historical facts of Padri actually show that slavery of fellow citizens becomes increasingly fertile because of Islam. Now take a look at the letter of information from Syeikh Jalaluddin written by Fakih Saghir. Tuanku Padri who captured people and sold them into slavery, and made concubines of their captives. For most Indonesians, this information is quite shocking, since they only heard good things about ulamas during the colonialism era. How come ulamas had the heart to capture their own people and then sell them into slavery? Most Indonesian Muslims couldn't believe that that was Islamic Sharia. Let's see information from Jeffrey Hadeler, in his article titled A Historiography of Violence and the Secular State in Indonesia, from the Journal of Asian Studies, published by Cambridge University Press. In page 982, Hadeler quoted information from Tuanku Imam Bonjol's memoir. He was the leader of the Padri army in the 1820s. From his memoir we know that Tuanku Imam Bonjol organized the burning of the village of Koto Gadang and instructed Tuanku Tambusai and Tuanku Rao to take the jihad farther north into the Batak lands. Bonjol, the fortress, became increasingly wealthy as Tuanku Imam Bonjol seized cattle, horses, mines, and slaves during his campaigns. The Indonesian government used the photo of Tuanku Imam Bonjol in the currency, upheld him as a national hero who fought for freedom. But that is just a lie. Instead, he was the one who enslaved his own nation, and became rich from doing that. Let's take a look at the Islamic Revivalism in a Changing Peasant Economy by Christine Dobbin. She is a British historian, with expertise in the politics, religion and economy of Asia. This paragraph is from page 137 and 138. The granary of the Tanah Datar Valley became essential to the operation of the Padri system further east. Also essential to the operation of the system was the market in slaves. The Agam Padris also made slaves of some of the inhabitants of the villages they captured, though how slavery was organized in Agam we do not know. Tuanku Lintau took considerable numbers of captives from Tanah Datar into service with his army, whereas slaves they were essential for transporting equipment and the food needed for expeditions. Other captives he sold as slaves in the markets of Tanah Datar, and still others he had transported to areas in the east where there was need of labor and sold them there. It is unlikely that the Padris could have survived so long on a war footing in their narrow valleys had they not had slave auxiliaries for their armies and slaves to cultivate the fields at home while they were away. Information from various historical sources explains the Padri ulamas were indeed the henchmen of their Arab masters, who applied Islamic Arabic ideologies to enslave their own nation.
Maybe it was surprising for some that Islamic cannibalism, Muslim killing Muslims, happened in the Padri War in the Agam area, West Sumatra. Doesn't Islam forbid Muslims to kill other Muslims?
Don't be surprised. Just look at the example of Prophet Muhammad himself, who often attacked various Muslims he accused of being a munafiq, murtad, or muzirik. For example, he ordered Muslims to kill Muslim muhajirin who dared to leave Islam and turn back to Mecca after migrating to Medina. This is the background of the event behind Quran, Surah An-Nisa, verse 89.
Prophet Muhammad also ordered the burning and destruction of the Dirar Mosque in Du Awan, when the Muslim congregations were preparing to pray. According to Sirah Nabawiyah by Ibn Hisham and Sirat Rasul Allah by Ibn Ishaq, written in the 8th century AD, The reason for the attack was because the Prophet felt the new mosque could divide Muslims. This is the background of the Quran, Surah At-Tawbah, verse 107. The Prophet accused Muslims in the mosque as munafiq.
About 200 years later, in the 10th century AD, the writers of Quran Tafsir made a news story that said that the founder of the mosque was actually a Christian priest named Abu Amir al-Rahib, who was a Roman accomplice.
They did not hesitate to fabricate Islamic history, only to cover up their shame towards the irrational actions of Prophet Muhammad.
Since then, Muslims are accustomed to destroying other Muslim mosques that are considered heretical.
Padri leaders had the heart to burn the residents' Gadang houses, because they knew that Prophet Muhammad also burned properties belonging to others, as he did against the palm plantation belonging to the Jewish tribe of Banu an-Nadir. Padri ulama killed anyone who dared to oppose them. This certainly follows the example of the Prophet, who also killed anyone who dared to oppose him. For example, the beheading of 900 Qurayza Jewish prisoners who had surrendered. It was Prophet Muhammad who also killed anyone who dared to criticize him through poetry, such as the murder of Abu Afak, Asma binti Marwan, Al-Nadr bin al-Harith, Uqba bin Abu Mu'at, Kabi bin al-Ashraf. The Padri ulama's actions were in accordance with their Prophet's violent actions. Padri ulamas enslaved their prisoners, also traded slaves. Prophet Muhammad did the same thing. He also sold prisoners as slaves, to enrich himself and also buy war equipment. For example, the Prophet sent Sa'ad bin Zaid al-Anshari to bring the female prisoners of the Bani Qurayza to Najd, and sold them as slaves to be exchanged for horses and weapons. The coercion of the women as sex slaves or concubines by the Padri was in fact in accordance with the commands of Allah in the Quran, Surah An-Nisa, verse 24. Background of the verse explains that the Prophet Muhammad even advocated Muslim soldiers to have intercourse with the married female prisoners, even though their husbands were still alive and captured in the same place. Sahih Muslim Hadith, number 3433. They took captives women on the day of Autas who had their husbands. They were afraid to have sexual intercourse with them when this verse was revealed. And women already married except those whom you right hands possess. Quran An-Nisa, verse 24.
Padri ulamas forbid cockfighting, but they themselves pitted the Minang community so that they were cutting and killing each other in the name of Islam.
Drinking beer or wine is not allowed, but drinking camel pee is halal? The clean beverage is forbidden, but the dirty and disgusting one is halal. The teachings of this Arabic ideology are completely upside down.
Written historical facts show that the Padri ulamas in the 19th century AD enslaved the Minang communities. Islam is indeed justifying slavery, even against fellow Muslims. The Prophet himself forbade Muslim slaves to escape from their Muslim owners. Hadiths Nasai Nomer 4050. Jarir used to narrate from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If a slave runs away, no salah will be accepted from him, and if he dies he will die a disbeliever. A slave of Jarir's ran away, and he caught him and struck his neck, killing him.
Ouch! Jarir's slave was beheaded because he tried to escape. Is this really a teaching from God, who is said to be most compassionate and merciful? Enslaving prisoners, beheading slaves, tarnishing female prisoners. How vile!